Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. So today we're going to be talking about the Dark Angels, we're going to be talking about the Lion, we're going to be talking about Luther and the future of the chapter. So this is kind of some lore crafting and theory stuff about what I think is going to happen with the Dark Angels. They're probably going to move to more of a forefront role in coming editions, I think and hope, just based off of what's been going on with their lore. So I guess there's some spoilers here, but like not really. Like if you have the Dark Angels Codex and know anything about the Dark Angels really and what's going on with them, there's no spoilers. And I'm going to mention a single line from the Luther book, but nothing like going over stories that are told within that book. So just be aware if you're like, if you want to read the Luther book, I go read it, maybe then watch this video. But again, I don't really think this really ruins the book. But regardless, in the new codex, Luther escapes. So he's out of the rock and they don't know where he is. So I mentioned a long time ago that I thought the three major threats right now to the Imperium was Luther, Fabius Bile, and the Alpha Legion. So the Alpha Legion they've been showing against the Tome Keepers recently. I made a video about that, which I think is a great idea. And I really think that they should come out of nowhere and just start wrecking everything because they still have a home world. They could be pumping out legionaries like no tomorrow. It would be nuts, right? And then Fabius Bile, I think we're going to see stuff coming out more later for him once we get kind of the Emperor's Children being redone, which might be next summer, maybe next Christmas. But there'll be other videos made about them. But in terms of Luther escaping the rock, I'm going to kind of go over what I think is going to happen and then what I hope happens. And I think I'm probably going to be right on what they're going to end up doing with this. So the line I want to talk about is that at the start of the Luther book, okay, it's essentially right after he gets captured, after Caliban is destroyed, and it's the first chapter master, I think, of the Dark Angels, or the person who's leading the Dark Angels after the Lion dies, quote unquote, and he's being interrogated. So Luther's like, I didn't kill the Lion and I didn't destroy Caliban. And the person's like, no, you did these two things. We know you did them, right? There's no point in lying. So right off the bat, the Lion wasn't killed, right? We know he wasn't killed. And if that's the case, then why would Luther be wrong about the second thing? If he said he didn't destroy, Caliban wasn't destroyed, then Caliban wasn't destroyed. I feel as though in the lore, they're going to make it that Caliban was destroyed. And this gets into my theory crafting here, where what I think would be a lot cooler. For Luther, if he destroyed Caliban and killed the Lion, then obviously that's that. But if Caliban was not destroyed, that opens up a whole bunch of stuff here. Because with Luther having escaped, the real question is he going to turn to chaos again? Or is he going to kind of stay in this role of someone who wants to repent for their sins? Like, they really could go either way with it. I think what they'll end up doing is having Luther leading the Fallen again. He'll get his chaos powers back now that he's left the rock and become evil again. But what I think is kind of a cooler idea is this, and I'm going to go through it here. So with Luther escaping, what they could do is that when the Lion comes back, essentially they have him meet up with Luther, and then they go to Caliban, because I think they should do that. Caliban is not destroyed. What happens in the description, right, in the destruction of Caliban here, is that the Chaos Gods realized they had lost again and sent a massive warp storm to rack the surface of the planet. It broke apart under the strain, destroyed all but the fortress monastery of the Order, protected by the vast force fields and Geller Field. Okay, so as the planet is being rocked by these warp storms and being broken apart, the rock separates out, right? What this sounds more like to me, right? And again, you have to remember that these are stories from 10,000 years ago that it gets mistold and misrepresented over time, is that because the rock had its Geller fields and shields on to protect it from the orbital bombardment, right? When Chaos summoned those warp storms, the rock detached itself as it was being sucked into the warp, right? They say it was destroyed by the warp. I don't think it was. I think the planet essentially ejected the monastery because it couldn't suck it into the warp because it had a Geller field up. And even though it looked like it was breaking up, it then got pulled into the warp. So theoretically, the whole planet could have been pretty much sucked in, and the large parts of Caliban would have survived. It's just that one section that got pulled out, there'd be break lines and fault lines along there. I know what some people will say, well, the planet obviously was destroyed. Then this is demons in the warp. Don't talk to me about what should be happening with the realities of regular space. It doesn't matter, right? They're demons. So I think that the fallen, some of them got tossed through time, right? That's a thing that has occurred. But the statistics, and there's debates online about it, is there's either 2,000 to 10,000 fallen kicking around, right? I'm going to err on the side of I think there's probably 10,000, right? Luther, it was a training world for the Dark Angels. They were pumping out new recruits. He wasn't sending any to the line. That's why they were coming back being like, what's going on? So let's say 1,000 got sent around the warp, and then there's 9,000 on Caliban. For anyone who read the books, you know that the Knights of Lupus, who are in the northern part, that they end up destroying, and then Luther gets those books that end up being Chaos Tomes. They could go there and start a new fortress monastery using the ruins of the Knights of Lupus's castle, because it's described in the book, right? Build a new fortress monastery, restart the Legion, right? Have the people of Caliban are still there. They can still have regular humans going out and joining the knightly orders as children and gradually working their way up and then becoming Dark Angels, right? They could still be doing the same recruiting process on that planet. Even though part of it's gone, it could just be a huge crater, right? Or there's a portal to the warp where beasts are coming out to fight now, right? They really could lean into that. And I think that it'll end up being that Caliban was just destroyed. But even when they talk about it here, where a swirling vortex of warp was created around Caliban, eventually broke apart, being pulled into the warp. Only an asteroid with ruins of the fortress monastery remained. Luther was said to be found, but Johnson was nowhere to be seen. It said he was taken by the Watchers in the dark. So with Luther adamantly saying that he didn't kill the Lion, that he didn't blow up Caliban, I think that it would be way better. It would be so cool to have Caliban come out of the warp, right? And that's the point where the Lion wakes up. When there's then a huge like summer campaign battle where we're fighting for Caliban again, right? Where the Lion goes back again, and then you can have Luther there with the Dark Angels, right? He could literally just have the Legion again, and that where it gets into a bit of a gray area where it really would depend if Luther is loyal or not. They say in the descriptions of the Fallen, when you go onto the wiki and go through all of this, is that a lot of the Fallen have turned to Chaos just because they were stuck in the warp, right? They got sucked through. They don't know what else to do. Chaos gods try and tempt them. And again, you can look up all of these on the War Wiki, the pages that I'm looking at. And within the chapter, like, I know that the current, like, Dark Angels, right, they're trying to find all of the Fallen, but they've been gathering in greater numbers. They're alluding to this in the new codex, that it would be so much better, I think, with my idea. Right? I think that Games Workshop should do this, because having Caliban return, having the Legion come back, like, imagine that it's just they're like, oh my God, there's 10,000 Fallen, right? And then you can have them split apart and have the dark, like, having all these other chapters showing up to fight this war and being like, why do these guys have your heraldry? Like, what's going on, right? Having it blow up in this huge thing that the Legion turned traitor. And having it come out, and still you can have them hunt the Fallen, but or maybe it's Gilliman shows up with the Ultramarines and only they know. There's a bunch of story content you can do with that. But on the flip side, you can have it be the Lion comes back, goes back to Caliban, finds Luther, forgives him, takes that Legion because he doesn't trust the current Dark Angels because he thinks they're working with Gilliman. Right? And then there's a civil war, because that's what kind of people have thought might happen, that if the Lion comes back, there's going to be a civil war because he's going to disagree with what Gilliman's doing, see him trying to usurp their father, which is what he does not want, right? Historically speaking. So we'll see what happens. It's kind of, and again, going into leak videos and rumor videos, which I absolutely am so sick of, people are saying that the Lion will come back next. And judging from the codex, it kind of seems that way, right? With Luther escaping, it seems that way. I still think they should bring back Vulcan. With Vulcan, you can have him show up. He's immortal. Fight some stuff and be like, I'm around, right? He can have a meeting with Gilliman and be like, if you are in dire need, I will come back again, but I really have stepped back from this, right? I don't want to be a part of the Imperium. That's why I left. So we'll have to see what happens next. Again, the balance of power here. There's too many demon Primarchs. Gilliman can't do this alone. So the Lion coming back, I have no idea what they'll end up doing. I like this idea a lot more because I think that it's just would come out of left field and no one's talking about this. I tried to find some stuff online to see if people were discussing this and it seems to be nothing. So let me know in the comments what you think of this video. I'm going to make a couple more about more ideas I have for the Dark Angels because I really do like the Fallen a lot. I think some of the coolest stuff in 40k really is involving the Fallen and just the mysteries around them and that sort of thing. So within that, they don't have to solve a lot of those clues that have been left behind for people, but it's going to be coming to a head soon. So again, let me know in the comments what you think of my theory of Caliban coming back and the Lion. Again, I think it'll probably be a pretty standard thing that actually happens. The Lion will come back to fight Luther again. It'll be pretty standard, right? Like, I don't know. It's just, I hope that's not the case, but I feel as though that's what's going to happen. And please share this video with people. I really want to see what everybody has to say about this. I feel like I'm right. I feel like this is a cool theory that, again, I've come up with. And maybe someone said something similar. I can't find it. If there is, throw a link up. Let me see what else someone else thinks. Again, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see everyone in the next video.